Okay, so you are studying this queuing systems. So far what we have seen, the basic description of a queue and the different properties of queue, along with the modeling of the arrival and service processes. So in the last class we have seen for Markovian queues, the arrival and service processes, they are negative exponentially distributed, right? And then we have also discussed some properties like finite versus infinite length queues, the queue discipline, right? Finite versus infinite population. And then we have discussed the Kendall's notation. Hmm? So for example, accordingly, if I simply write M1, so what does it mean? The first one is the distribution of the arrival process. So it is Markovian. That means negative exponential. Then for the service time distribution, right? That is also Markovian. That means negative exponential. One means one server, right? And if nothing is mentioned, then automatically the remaining things will be the standard, which means that it will be infinite. The system capacity is infinite. The population is infinite, and the queue discipline is FCFS, first come first served. Right. So up to this point, you see. Now we are interested in some performance measures, because finally, see, when you either line up in a queue or you are looking at the queue from the organizational viewpoint, you are always interested in measuring performance of the queue. That means how you can reduce the waiting time, right? How you can whether you can add more counters or more service counters, right? So these are the some of the things we are interested in, right? So accordingly, some standard performance measures are defined. So we'll now discuss those performance measures. Performance measures. Okay. Now performance measures. Um, so when you are talking about this performance measure of a queue, you have to always uh, keep in mind that because these arrival and service processes are random processes, right? They are following some distribution. So as such, you cannot really um, define some measure in the short term, right? Because it's always random. So if you observe the queue for 10 minutes and you find out that what is the mean delay time, it will be different if you study the same queue after, say, at the end of the day, or maybe after, say, 5 hours. The output will be different, right? So when we say performance measures, we are not referring to short-term measures. It is always about long-run behavior of the system, right? Which is also called steady state behavior of the system, right? So all these measures are steady state measures, which means that in the long run, the system will settle down on some averages, right? Doesn't mean that if you observe the system, then in the short term you will get those averages. So that is not the case. So I'm just giving you an example. Say I'm interested to know that what is the probability that um, 30 people will be in the system. Suppose I want to know this. What is the probability P30? That means the probability that 30 people will be in the system at any point of observed time, right? Now, when you are talking about steady state probability, okay, then it may have some value, say P30 is equal to say 0.3, which means that, so this 0.3 is the steady state probability of having 30 people in the system. So suppose now at time say t equal to 5, you observe the system. So there you may find 45 people in the system. Even at t equal to 100, you may observe. So then also you may find say 20 people in the system, right? So these values will anyway vary throughout the day. So it will never settle down to say, so what is the meaning of this 0.3? P30 is 0.3. So the meaning is that if you observe the system 100 times, if you observe the system 100 times at 100 different points of time, then 30% of the time you may find that 30 people are in the system. So this is also the meaning of the probability. So probability is also defined in the long term, right? So as you see, this probability of head is 0.5 for a coin. What does it mean? That if you toss the coin 10 times, you will get 5 heads? No. You have to toss the coin very large number of times, then only you will get half of the outcomes as head, right? So essentially probability is also a steady state behavior, or long run behavior of the system. Okay, so now with this, the most basic information for a queuing system is this, that how many people are in the system. So this is defined by PI. So PI is the probability that I customers are present in the system. I customers are present in the system, right? This is the most basic performance measure. And from this PI, we will see that all other performance measures can be computed. Okay. So this PI, I is the number of customers, right, in the system. So this I can be 0 to infinity for infinite queues, or 0 to capital N for finite queues. So for infinite queues, this I can be 0 to infinity for infinite queues, or it can be 0 to capital N for finite queues, right? This is for finite length queues, right? Fine. Do you agree with this? Okay. So now I have to find this PI in order to find all other performance measures. So the calculation and the expression of PI, these will be derived from some Markov-Chain calculations, which we will do later. Okay. For the time being, you assume that PI is known. Say, PI is you have already calculated PI. How to calculate, we'll see a bit later, because that involves some forming some linear system of equations and then solving it. We will show how to do it later. So suppose you treat it as a black box now. So from that black box, you get the value of PI. Okay. Now we will see that how we can get other performance measures from PI. If PI is known, then we can get all the other performance measures related to Q. So one such performance measure is probability that all C servers are busy. Suppose I am interested in this probability. All C servers are busy. Suppose I am considering a system with C servers, multiple servers, right? So when all C servers will be busy, how do I estimate this?
When there are at least C customers in the system.
Right. So that means, so it can be written as, so at least C customers PC plus PC plus 1 plus PC plus 2, right? So like this, If it is infinite, then it will go to infinite. If it is finite, then it will be up to Pn, P capital N, right? So this is also equal to the probability that a new customer will face the delay. So this is the also the probability delay for a new customer, right? So when a customer enters the system, what is the probability that he will face the delay? When all the C servers are busy, which is given by this probability, sum of these probabilities, isn't it? Do you understand this? How to calculate these two probability values?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now another thing. So these are all related. These probabilities we are defining, they will all be used in uh, uh, estimating some performance measures of the given system. Okay. So another probability I'm defining, which is, these are very simple things. Uh, yes. So here BI, suppose I define another probability BI. What is BI? BI is probability that I servers are busy. So earlier the probability is the probability that all servers are busy. So now BI is the some servers are busy, I servers are busy. So what is this probability?
It should be PI.
So right. So when these for I, when the number of such servers is less than C, right? So when I equal to C, I have this expression PC plus 1 this, right? So when I less than C, then this BI will be equal to nothing but PI. So suppose you have 4 servers and I'm asking that what is the probability that 2 of them are busy?
P2.
P2. And why is that?
Because if there are two, like the number of servers is more than two, then if there are two people, they'll go to the server to
They
take
go to
service.
the servers and the servers get busy, right? But
Yeah.
if suppose if the number of people are 3, then
The third person will go to the empty server, like which
empty,
is not busy.
empty, right? Which means in order to get 2 servers busy, you have to have 2 people in the system, not more than that, right? So if you have more than that, they will go to the empty servers. Fine, very good, very simple also. So next is uh, so now I have defined PI distribution, then BI, the number of probability that I servers are busy. So this is BI distribution also I have defined. Now another distribution I am defining, probability distribution, which is the Q length distribution. Okay, Q length distribution. QI. So QI is I'm defining as the probability of finding I customers in the queue. I customers in the queue, right? Sorry, my handwriting is a bit, is it readable? Because I'm using a different pad today from home. So I'm not used to it, so it is getting a bit.
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So QI is the probability of finding I customers in the queue. This is very important. Queue length is distributed in order to have the performance measures related to the queue length, right? So how to define this probability? So first we start with Q0. What is Q0? So Q0 is that is there is no person in the queue. So the persons who are getting served is not considered to be part of the queue. So in the queue means they're waiting for the service. Okay. So essentially now can you tell me how you can use the PI, the probability that I customers are in the system, to define Q0 when there will be no person in the queue?
When at most, like there are at most C people in the system,
Yes.
like P0
So
plus up to PC.
yes. So if you have C servers, so if you have 5 servers, then if you have 5 people in the system, then there is no queue. But whenever you have 6, then there will be queue, right? So it will be P0 yeah, plus P1 plus P2. So like this, up to PC. So this is the definition of Q0. This is how you express Q0 in terms of PI. Understood? And then when you have more than one or more persons waiting in the queue, so that is QI. So this is defined for I when I greater than 0, strictly greater than 0, right? So then how you define QI? So I mean say 5
P,
persons are waiting in the queue. So it will
PC
be
plus I.
PC plus I. Very good. PC plus I. That means suppose there are 4 servers, so 4 people are getting served there, and then 5 people are waiting in the queue, QI, Q5 say. So which means the total number in the system is the 4 getting served plus 5 waiting in the queue. So it is simply PC plus I. So now we have completely defined QI distribution as well. We know Q naught and we know all the other values of QIs. Okay, in terms of course PIs, right? So we see that once we define this PI, then we get this BI distribution. Just in the previous slide, we have this BI distribution. You see, BI is also expressed in terms of PI. BI equal to PI, in fact, right? And then QI is also expressed in terms of PIs. Okay. So now you have all the we have defined all the requisite probability distributions. Now from these distributions we can now measure certain quantities. Okay. So from a distribution, as you see, if it is a continuous distribution, say normal distribution or Poisson distribution, what is the 2 things that you are generally interested in? You are generally interested in knowing the mean of the distribution and the variance, right? Here in queuing system, we are mainly interested to know the mean. So computation of some mean values. Okay, computation of some mean values. These are called the performance measure of a system because it gives you the long run or steady state values, right? So first is capital L. Capital L is defined as the mean number of customers in the system. Mean number of customers in the system. Earlier we have defined PI, that means probability. That is a probability. Probability that I customers are in the system. That is fine. But at the end, what you want to know? that on an average how many people will be there in the system, that is capital L. So that this is the steady state performance measure of a queue. Okay, and how to define it, how to express L in terms of PI? You know the distribution
Like
PI.
it will
So
be like a summation of I
expected,
into Pi.
yes. So expected value simply. So summation of I and then I into PI. So this is simply the L, mean number of customers in the system. Similarly, you have capital B, which is because not only you are interested to know what will be the mean number of customers in the system, but also the mean number of busy servers to assess the utilization of your resources, of your services, service counters, right? So we define B, capital B is the mean number of busy servers. Okay, from where it will come from? BI distribution, which we have defined earlier. So so what will be the expression? Capital B, again same thing, summation I into small bi, summation I into a small bi. This will be the mean number of busy servers, because bi gives you the probability that I servers are busy, right? Any question?
No, sir.
Okay, so these L, capital B, two performance measures we have defined. Let us define some more. So one thing is that um, capital L gives you the mean number of customers in the system, but often we are interested to know that what is the mean number of people waiting in the queue, not in the system, in the queue specifically, because they are actually waiting, no? So we have defined another term, LQ, which is different from capital L. Capital L is the mean number in the system, and capital LQ is the mean number of customers in the queue. Okay, so capital LQ is the, we call it mean queue length. So this is always we wanted to estimate, right? Mean queue length. So over the long run, what will be the mean queue length? That will determine the performance of the system, right? So from where I'll get it, mean queue length? We have defined QI distribution, right? The number of people waiting in the queue, I people are waiting in the queue. So this QI distribution already defined. So from there we can get LQ, isn't it? So LQ will be summation I times QI. Simple. Okay. Another very important performance measure is capital U. So U is the average utilization of servers. So earlier we have defined capital B, right? Capital B, what is capital B? Mean number of busy servers, right? Mean number of busy servers. So capital B is 4, means that in the long run, suppose I have 5 counters, and if capital B is 4, that means in the long run 4 servers will be busy, so one will remain idle in the long run, right? That is capital B. And what is capital U? Average utilization of resources of the servers. So how do I define it? Capital U. Suppose I have C servers. Small c is the number of servers available to you, right? Small c is the total number of servers available. Capital B is the mean number of busy servers in the long run. So how do I define U? That is average utilization of servers. It is simply equal to B divided by C. That is the utilization ratio. That out of C servers, B servers are busy. So B by C is capital U, average utilization. Fine.
Yes, sir.
So for a single server system, C, small c is 1. So for a single server system, what happens? Capital U becomes capital B. Right? And can you tell me what is capital B for a single server system? There is only one server. So what will be capital B?
It will be like 1 second.
So when that server will be busy? So
When
in the long
when
run,
there,
how many? Yeah. Tell me.
when when there will be at least one customer in a system, then that server will be busy.
Yes, when there will be at least one customer. When that will happen? So can I write like this? So
It will be 1 minus
is
P.
P naught, right? See, 1 minus P naught. So this gives you the probability that at least one customer in the system, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, fine. So capital U is understood. Now, another important measure is capital R. It is called throughput rate. Throughput rate or output rate. Means that number of service completions per unit time. This is how it is defined. Number of service completions per unit time. So this is most like, I mean, you have heard of this term throughput for even any machine, right? Even computer jobs. See, throughput is a very standard term. So whenever there is input and output, you are always interested to know that what is the output rate. That is the number of jobs getting completed per unit time, right? So this is also a very important measure, because this will tell you that how efficiently your workers at the service counters, are working, whether they are working efficiently or not, right? So this capital R is also very important, and we will later on we'll see how these R can be evaluated. Not now. It will be evaluated from Little's law later on, with the help of course L and W. But we'll see later how to evaluate capital R. Then let us define. So I'm not evaluating it now. Just wait for a while. So capital W, this is another measure. So earlier what we have seen is L, capital B, capital LQ, these are all related to the numbers. That means the number of customers in the system, number of busy servers, mean number of customers waiting in the queue, right? These are all related with numbers. Now, you are also interested in times. That means the waiting time, isn't it? Not only in numbers, but also in waiting time. So these W and WQ, these two measures, they assess the waiting times. So first one is the average waiting time in the system. And the next one is average waiting time in the queue. Right. So these two quantities are very important because they estimate the time, waiting times in the system and in the queue. Okay. So let us now see that how to estimate these R and W and WQ. Okay. So first we take R. How to estimate R? So how to estimate capital R, right? Now this actually comes from the long run behavior of the system. So we say that for infinite, suppose for infinite queues, infinite length queues, infinite capacity queue. For infinite capacity queue, this R will be equal to lambda. The output rate, that is the number of people leaving the system, will be equal to number of people arriving in the system. Can you tell me why? Why for infinite capacity queue R is equal to lambda in the long run? That is the average behavior of the system. So this is in steady state. So in steady state, capital R will be equal to lambda. Why? What is the definition of steady state? That the average settles down to a particular quantity, right? That means in steady state you can say, okay, the system is stable, which means the queue length has now been stabilized. Okay, so there's a capital L, capital LQ. Capital LQ is the mean queue length, right? Mean number of customers waiting in the queue. So LQ is now a value which you have calculated already. Say it is 10. So when you are saying that in the steady state 10 people will be waiting in the queue. To achieve this stability, it is natural to conclude that number of people who will enter the system will be equal to the number of people leaving the system. Otherwise, they will not be able to achieve this stability. Do you get my point?
Yes, sir.
So that is why R is equal to lambda. Okay. And for infinite capacity. Now for finite capacity. For finite capacity queue. Now for finite capacity, what happens? So this is the system, suppose, and you have a finite capacity capital A. So once the system is full, then if someone tries to enter the system, he will be rejected. He will not be allowed to even enter the system, right? So if I define the capital, this lambda is the arrival rate, then there will be some attempts to enter the system which will be successful, and there will also be some attempts to enter the system which will be unsuccessful if the system is full, right? So what will be the successful attempts? What will be the fraction of those successful attempts when the people will be allowed to enter the system? When the system is not full, what is the probability that system is not full? Small pn is what? The number of this n, capital N people are in the system. So that is system is full. So when it will not be full? 1 minus Pn. So this is the probability that the system is not full, right? So essentially, so this is the fraction of times the entry will be successful. So out of lambda, so if I multiply lambda with this, so this will be the total number of effective arrivals. This we call effective arrivals. So although lambda is the arrival rate, so this is known as effective arrival rate. Effective arrival rate is lambda times 1 minus Pn. Did you get it or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So here for finite capacity Q, again the same intuition, the output rate should be equal to the input, that means the entry rate. So here the effective entry is lambda times 1 minus Pn. So this is how we estimate capital R, that is the throughput of the system, of the QA system. Okay. So far, whatever we have defined, we are able to see calculate up to this capital R. Still, W and WQ are left, right? All the other things are estimated, right? LQ, U. Then before that, there is capital L, capital B. So these are all these different different questions basically in which you are interested in, right? So now we will see how to estimate these two quantities, this W and WQ. So W and WQ, how to get their values. Now this comes from these two, they can be estimated from Little's law. Little's law, right? So Little's law says, now I am not going into the theoretical understanding of this law. So we will just see the description of this law, and then we'll try to sort of evaluate this W and WQ from this law. But it is quite intuitive. This law is quite intuitive. So although we will not cover the mathematical understanding of the law, but intuitively you can understand it. So essentially Little's law, what does it what it is trying to establish? It is trying to establish a relationship between the number of people in the system, capital L, and number of people waiting in the system, W. Capital L is the number of people, mean number of people in the system, and capital W is mean number of people waiting in the system. So what do you think, that if the number of these people, this capital N increases, the W also increases? More number of people in the system means key more waiting for them. Similarly, more waiting the system also implies more number of people in the system. So these two are linearly related to each other, linearly proportional to each other, right? So what Little does, he establishes, Little is the name of the scientist, so don't consider Little as a small or something. So Little was the name of the scientist. So what he established is L is proportional to W and it is equal to RW. So this R is the throughput rate, which we have now just discussed. This is the throughput rate, right? So now you see, we know how to evaluate R, we know how to evaluate capital L. So automatically this W can be calculated. Suppose for some systems we know capital L and capital W, we can evaluate R. So if so there are three quantities. So if we know 2, we can always evaluate the third from this. And this law is actually generally applicable for any kind of input-output system. Okay. So you can also make a relationship between LQ and WQ through this law. So this LQ will be also equal to RWQ. The number of people in waiting in the system, and then number of people waiting in the waiting time in the queue, right? So this is also related by Little's law. So Little's law essentially, it doesn't say L is proportional to W. It essentially says that so L and W, if these are the input and output quantities of any system, they will be linearly related, and the constant will be the throughput rate. The proportionality constant will be the throughput rate. So this is what is Little's law. Now you can apply it anywhere. So LQ will also be equal to R into W. So for finite capacity system, for finite capacity queue, we know that this, we just saw this capital R is equal to lambda for finite capacity queue.
So for infinite capacity.
Yeah, infinite. For infinite capacity queue, R is equal to lambda. So Little's law becomes L equal to lambda W. So in most textbooks, you will find this expression L is equal to lambda W. In many textbooks, they include this as Little's law, but actually it is not. The original form of Little's law is this, L equal to RW, right? But because infinite capacity has R equal to lambda, that's why L equal to lambda W. So for finite capacity Q, the Little's law will be what? So for finite Q, L will be equal to what? Lambda times 1 minus
T. P into W.
Right. Times W. Okay. So what we have seen the different performance measures related to a queuing system. So we were interested to know that if you allow the system to run for a long time, then what would be the mean number of people in the system? What would be the mean number of people in the queue? What would be their mean waiting times in the system as well as in the queue? What will be the mean number of busy servers? What is the utilization, capital U, right? And what is the throughput rate, capital R? And now we have also described how to compute all these things. And these are all based on the assumption that we have a procedure to compute small pi, because that is at the core of it. We have seen that once the pi distribution is known, then you can compute qi, you can compute bi, and from all these distributions you can derive these performance measures, right? So computation of a small pi is at the core, is at the heart of all these things. Do you realize this?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So now we will see that how to compute this small pi. The number of people, the probability that I people are in the system. So how to compute that? So for these, we have to take the help of again Markuchin. Now in the Markuchin course, in the topic, I have only covered discrete time Markuchin, DTMC, right? But there is another version which is called continuous time Markuchin, CTMC. Now, interestingly, this queuing model, they fall into this category, continuous time Markov chain. Okay. Now, for continuous time Markov chain, although I have not covered the theory, but I'll try to just give you some idea here in the context of queue and how it can be modeled as a continuous time Markov chain, and then we will see how to estimate these values of PIs from that. Okay. So we call it Markovian queuing models. Okay. Now if I take this MM1 queue, say MM1, which means the interval time is Markovian, negative exponential, service times are negative exponential, and single surge. Okay. This arrival time, this arrival rate is lambda. So arrival rate is lambda, which is the the mean for this negative exponential distribution, right? Similarly, the service rate is mu. So which means that 1 by lambda is the interval, this 1 by mu is the mean service time, which we'll use in the calculations. Okay. 1 by lambda is the mean inter-arrival time. So this is the mean inter-arrival time. And 1 by mu is the mean service time. Right. So this follows from this definition. Okay. Now, if I try to draw the, now this is because this is continuous time Markov chain. Here the transition diagram is a bit different. So this looks like this. So the here states are defined as the number of people in the system. So it can be say I minus 1, and then I, right, and then I plus 1, I plus 2, like this, fine. And here there are two even these what you call transitions possible. So one is these are called transition rates. So one is the entry in the system lambda, and one is the leaving mu. Fine. So this is lambda, this is mu. Again, this is lambda, this is mu. Now, what is the difference from discrete time Markov chain? You already know what is discrete time Markov chain, right? So what is the difference? Can you identify what is the difference between continuous time and discrete time? In terms of the description of these states and these transition rates?
Sum of lambda plus mu may not be 1, right? Or
Sum of what?
The lambda and mu.
Lambda and mu. These are lambda and mu. Yes. So lambda and mu is, you say, arrival rate and service rate.
Yeah.
But they are not probabilities.
Okay. Fine. Okay. Sorry.
Right. Now in the discrete time chain, what we have seen, when you define the states and then put the arrows, usually you attach the probability. They were called transition probabilities, isn't it? That what is the probability that it will be at that next state, say Pij. So you would have defined Pi minus 1 I like that, right? So in the discrete time Markov chain, this transition in the transition diagram, we had probabilities as the labels of arrows. Fine. But here instead of that, we are having what? We are having transition rates, lambda and mu. Okay. Now here, so this is for MM1. I have drawn this transition diagram. So there is another important property you can, some distinction you can observe. And what is that? You see, in the discrete time Markov chain, or in fact in any type of Markov chain, you will see that transition is possible from any state to any other state. I mean, there may be error, right? Probability may be 0 for some cases, but there could be errors from one state to another state. But for queuing system, especially for MM1, what I have drawn, see the transition can happen only from this I minus 1 to I, then I to I plus 1, then again I plus 1 to I, or maybe to the adjacent state. So in this type of Markov chain, you see for queuing, which is representing the queuing system, the transition is happening only to the adjacent states, isn't it? Either the
Yes, sir.
next right hand side state or left hand side. So jump is not possible for this processes. So one person will enter, then only the second person can enter. Two-person cannot enter at the same time. This is the assumption. So we have assumed that in a very small time, delta t, only one arrival or only one service completion is possible, not simultaneous. Okay, and which is sort of logical, which is logical assumption for many real systems. Although if you go to the say railway counter, you may actually find that two people may enter the space, enter the railway, that counter area at the same time. That is fine, but if you see their line joining time, that will be different by a small amount. So then only this ordering is possible, no? If they try to join a line at the same time, then who will join first? There will be clash. So always there will be this delta t time difference, which will determine who will join after whom, right? So it is reasonable assumption that at during delta t, the very small time, only one arrival or only one service completion is possible, right? So now this type of Markov chain has a special name. It is a continuous time Markov chain, but it again, because the transition is possible only to next adjacent states, it has a special name. It is called birth-death process. How many of you have heard this before? Birth-death process. Birth, death. So this is a random process, Markov chain only. There is a special name, birth, because it can only add or delete. Add one person or delete one person. So that's why it is called birth and death process. Okay. Now there is you know, there is some sophisticated calculations where you have to set up these flow balance equations for each state for this Markov chain, and from those flow balance equations you can derive this small pi. So for each state, basically you have to ensure that the incoming flow is equal to the outgoing flow. So for example, if I take this state I, if you look at this state I, right? So people may be arriving from I minus 1 to I, or from I plus 1 to I also. I mean, I is not a system, I is a number, right? So from I plus 1 to I at the transition rate mu, and then from I minus 1 to I at the transition rate lambda. So both are possible, right? And outgoing is this one, again mu and lambda. So there is some incoming flow and then there is outgoing. Now here flow is defined you know, in a very different way. So what I'll try now, almost 1 hour is over. So what I'll try, I will make a lecture, record it, and then share it with you, that how to what is this flow, how you capture, model this flow, how you set up the flow balance equations, and from that how you compute pi. Because once you are able to compute pi, then everything else you can compute, right? So I'll only show you how to compute this small pi from these flow balance equations for this birth and death process. So up to now you have understood now how you have modeled it as a birth and death process. Is there any question up to this point?
No, sir.
Okay. So because of the limitation of time, I have to end here. But I will make a video lecture and share it with you, and then if you have questions you can always ask me. And I'll also in that video I'll also talk about the multiple servers also, because right now we have considered one server only. So when you have multiple servers, then how this Markov chain, how you can model it as the birth and death process, right? And how you can estimate pi for the multiple server queue also. That also I will touch upon. Okay.
Sir, exam syllabus is up to where? Like up to performance measure?
Yeah, up to this.
So this birth and death process won't be
Yeah,
there.
whatever is covered up to till now, it will be there.
Okay. So that recorded video, that part won't be there, right?
No.
Okay. And sir, can you save this file like for reference?
Yes, I'll save it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you.